Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm super excited to share a makeover of a vintage toolbox. I love vintage storage and I'm excited to share this project with you. You can see that what I started with is pretty rough, but it has amazing storage. And so I'm excited to make it over. I think it's just a great project. I know I'm going to be replacing these felt liners, and so what I want to do is just mark them where they go. This is really important because when something is handmade, it's never completely square. So you can see that the one from the left really doesn't fit on the right. So I'll take all the liners out and keep them as a template. The next thing I want to do is vacuum everything out. And I also used a hairdryer to see if I could loosen up some of that adhesive, but I'll probably have to sand it. So I'm using a product called Clean Slate. You can use Crud Cutter or even just dish soap and water, but it's super important to clean your pieces thoroughly before you begin to paint them. And so I'm going to let this product dry and then I'm going to wipe it back with a damp microfiber cloth. And it may seem counterintuitive because I'm going to be using wood putty on this too, but I don't want to gunk up my sandpaper, so I like to clean my pieces even before I sand. Next, I'm going to be using some wood filler, and I just, this is a really rustic piece, but I do want to fill in some of the imperfections. So I'm just using that wood filler. I'm going to fill in where I think it needs it. I'm going to let that dry completely, and then I'm going to be using my Surf Prep sander to sand everything smooth. I love this tool. The Surf Prep sander has saved me so many hours of work. But I'll smooth back all of that wood filler, give it a good scuff sanding, and then I'm going to clean it. Right now, what I want to do is ensure that knowing the finish that I'm going to create on this piece, I don't want any of the black to show through. I didn't really have a color that I wanted exactly, so I'm mixing two colors of Wise Owl Chalk Synthesis paint. I'm using Snow Owl and the color Earth. I'm just blending those two together to give it a really kind of a light caramel, a light tan color that's going to look beautiful with the transfer that I'm going to be using. This is also serving as a primer for my toolbox because I am going to be using another formula of paint for the final finish. So I'm just smoothing that on. I'm going to let this dry. I did the inside of the box, everything. This just gives it a uniform color. I'm also going to do this on the inside of the trays and the drawer that is underneath. I'm using a small brush just to get in the corners because I am going to be lining them, but if there's any space there that would show, I want it to have color and not have that black show through. So it's kind of like when you cut in on your walls. I'm just kind of cutting in the corners before I finish painting this. Next, I'm going to apply a coat of just very randomly, kind of spotty. I'm using Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel in Leatherwood. I just want to add additional color to the piece. I'm going to be even layering another color on top of this. And I just love the variation in color that you can do by layering paint. 1 Hour Enamel does not need to be sealed. It works beautifully with transfers and it's super durable. It's our choice of paint for cabinets and trim and doors and things like that, but you can also use it on furniture and projects like this. I'll go all over this and I even did the inside. And now what I'm doing is I'm using a seawool sponge and I'm applying cracked patina. This is a product that once dry will act as almost a resist and it creates beautiful, authentic looking texture. While that was drying, I had some vintage hardware from a leftover project and I cleaned it up by boiling it with 50-50 water and vinegar. And then I needed to make all of this hardware match the finish. So I'm painting it in leatherwood. I'm going to apply a little bit of cracked patina to it. And then I will be adding another color to the top of this. Now all of this mix matched hardware matches, and the handles are for the side of the toolbox, the latch is for the lid, and then I've got some little wood knobs for the drawer. Once the cracked patina was dry, I went ahead and took 1 hour enamel in Antique Villa, and I'm going to just do a rough coat of paint over this. You can already see where the paint is lifting. You do want to go in small sections with this and work relatively quickly. Once I have that on there, I'm going to use a piece of plastic wrap to really create some texture on this piece. I lay it down flat and then I ball it up, and you can see how easy it is to pick up paint. And what I'm really trying to do is let the colors show through, but also create some texture. I'm then going to just lightly brush more of my Antique Villa over the top, but I love the yummy texture on this. While that was all drying, it was time to address the liners. I had a cardboard envelope that I had the top torn off, so I'm using that as a template, and I'm tracing around my felt, those gross felt liners, to make a new template. I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to be using some fabric to make new liners for this. I have this ticking stripe fabric, and I'm linking to a similar fabric because this isn't available on Amazon, but I'm just cutting this out, and then next I'm going to iron all of the pieces with my little craft iron. I'll link to that below as well. I love this little iron. It's great for getting out wrinkles in decoupage paper or anything like that. Once all my pieces were cut and they were ironed, I'm using a tacky glue and just applying it to the top just to put my fabric in place. I'm going to try to line it up as best as I can. It won't be perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to cut my corners off. That just reduces any bulk that you'll have on the corners. And then with that same tacky gel, I'm applying it with a silicone brush. I'll link to that as well. And I'm just going to cover these, and it'll give me nice crisp edges and look nice and neat inside the box. I'm cutting off any bulk, and on the corners I'm applying a little more tacky gel because that will keep any loose fabric from fraying, and it just positions all of that in place. Next, what I want to do is I want to protect the fabric and make it waterproof. So I'm using a product called Liquid Vinyl, and I am applying this pretty heavily. I'm going to do 2 coats. 2 coats will make this waterproof and stain resistant. 3 coats will give it an oilcloth-like effect. And now it's time to apply these inside. So I'm using a foam brush to spread out my glue, and I'm just going, I don't want lumps or anything. And then I put that in place. And you can see how those templates were super helpful because now they just slide right in. And again, I'm doing this for all of the drawers, or the one drawer and the cubby. The tray is done as well. Now it was time for the fun part finally. I'm using the Maze Roses transfer by IOD. It just has beautiful, beautiful images. Transfers are such a wonderful tool because you can cut them up, position them any way you like. They're just very, very flexible. So once I decided on my image for the front of the box, I went ahead and got an idea of where I wanted that. And then I didn't want that M. I'm going to use that someplace else. And so I cut that out, and then I'm going to show you 2 ways that you might want to line up your transfer. This first one is I just measured where it was going to meet. I used a ruler and a marker to cut that, and then I set that aside, and I was ready to place my center design on my box. I pushed that down with my hands, and then using the included transfer stick, I'm rubbing it to release the transfer onto the box. Don't be afraid of applying a lot of pressure. I do recommend, though, that you move your hand to hold it in place, because once it releases, it can shift and move, and you don't want that. Next, I'm going to burnish it with that. And then here's another way you can do this. You can just take an X-Acto knife and, you know, split the transfer where it meets or needs to separate. And there you go. So now I'm going to just line up that transfer, that piece that I kept for the lid, and it lines up beautifully. And again, I'm going to just use my transfer stick and get that onto the toolbox. I went ahead and used the other designs to complete my box. You'll see that in the picture. But the final step is to seal your transfers, and I'm using 1 Hour Enamel's Clear Coat in matte. Then it was time for the hardware. This was really fun to see it all come together. I just love how this box turned out. I love the latch. I had asked in a short for you to help me choose the latch, and I think you all helped me choose the perfect one. I'd love to know what you think of this makeover and how you would use this box. This one's going to be hard to let go. I think I would use it for my watercolor supplies, but I'm not going to put them in there because then I won't let it go. So I'll get this in the shop soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel.